Here we go in three, two, one.
Folks, what is up? Welcome back to the Vol Talk podcast. You're here with Austin and Blake. That is Austin, and I am Blake, and we are here to talk about all things volunteer sports. And Austin, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm wearing the Natty Daddy hat tonight because here's the deal. After this past weekend of all sports, I'm feeling a national championship again in baseball, and I'm feeling a national championship in basketball, baby. Okay, we're going the distance. That's all I've got to say.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know if I agree with either one of those, but it was a good weekend, man. Good weekend. Our Lady Vols are playing as we speak, so hopefully they can round out the weekend and complete the trifecta. But we advanced to the Sweet 16 in the basketball tournament, and Tennessee wins the tournament or wins the series against Alabama in baseball. So yeah, overall pretty good weekend.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. It didn't start out great with the baseball Volunteers. We did drop that first game to Alabama on, I guess it was Thursday night, and so that got me heated. I was not happy to see that, but we came back and we won the series, like you said. And so, look, we're gonna have a special dedicated section of this episode to some Alabama hate, as per usual for this podcast. Because it is absolutely necessary, and we absolutely owned Alabama this past year in all the major sports. So you love to see that. And the basketball Vols, they took care of business in the round of 64 and in the round of 32 against Wofford and UCLA, respectively. So we're going to be covering all that, folks. We do know our next matchup in the tournament as well. We're going to be talking about that. And we're going to be talking about the upcoming baseball games. So y'all go ahead and buckle in. We've got a lot of good Vol sports to talk about. But Austin, I think we're going to start with the basketball stuff, right? Because we're smack dab in the middle of the NCAA tournament, and so far the basketball Vols are looking good. We're getting some decent games out of Chaz Lanier. Zakai Zeger's looking great as always, and this team is obviously it's been against low seeds, but we're looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, we have looked pretty good, man. Chaz has been phenomenal. I think he's the storyline coming out of the first two games. But overall, the tournament has been kind of mid, man. Where's the upsets? Where's the big upsets happening? And there's been a few more upsets in the round of 32, but man, it has to be one of the worst round of 64s I can remember as a college basketball fan. Because everyone's watching March Madness, everyone's filling out brackets and everything. And dude, I always pick a lot of upsets in my bracket. I like to have some upsets. Well, my bracket's terrible this year because all my upset picks just didn't come to fruition. So it's been kind of a rough tournament as a whole, but obviously happy to see Tennessee has avoided upsets against Warford and UCLA in the second round. I was a little bit worried about the UCLA game, man. UCLA beat the brakes off of Utah State. They looked really good in that game. So I was actually kind of worried going into the UCLA game, but kind of towards the end of the first half and the second half, we started to really hum in that game. But I guess I'll start with the Warford game. So, I mean, Chaz just went ballistic, dude. I mean, he just absolutely went ballistic. One thing that I've noticed with Chaz the last few weeks is he's adding more to his game. It's not just been about the three-point shot. It's not just been, catch and shoot. It's been a little bit more mid-range. It's been a little bit more driving to the bucket. I still think he has a lot to improve there. He's not the best ball handler, so he could really improve in that area. But Chaz is finding different ways to score. And really, it's interesting because if you remember, in non-conference play, we were pretty impressed with Chaz Lanier's play throughout non-conference play. And then it was SEC play where his play started to fall off. It's kind of interesting, right? I mean, the two first non-conference games, Chaz goes for 29 and 20. And as you know, we got a conference foe coming up in Kentucky. So,
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that here in a minute. We will most likely have to pull in we're gonna reference some moments from our previous episode because Austin made an unfortunate prediction, and it's scary because
it's
it's set
possible.
up. It's possible. We did draw Kentucky. Kentucky just won. We're recording this on Sunday. This will drop tomorrow on Monday. But today Kentucky did win against Illinois, and so they will be our next opponent in the Sweet 16. And so, man, yeah, it's scary. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, man, what a great performance against Wofford. I've got a fun stat that I saw on Instagram a couple days ago against Wofford. Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler became the second ever duo in an NCAA tournament game to have one player have 25 plus points and the other player have 10 plus assists and no turnovers. So that was Chaz Lanier with 25 plus points. Like you said, he ended up with 29. He was shooting lights out against Wofford, and then Zakai Ziegler had a great game as usual, had over 10 assists and no turnovers. The last duo to do that was 2008 Davidson team. Steph Curry, and then some other dude.
Who Blake couldn't find before we got on the show. He was looking everywhere. The dude basically doesn't exist. We have no idea who the guy is. But Steph Curry is pretty good.
Look, no disrespect to the other dude. Whoever the other dude is, probably I don't know, one of their players, one of Davidson's players from 2008, and Steph Curry. And so, yeah, that's good company to be in when you're, in the company of an NBA Hall of Famer in Steph Curry. So, cool stuff in the first game. But then, yeah, so we briefly talked about UCLA. Let's go into that a little bit more. The UCLA game, that was a tough fuck game. At least, like you said, we started to break it open we got a really, nice cushy lead by, a few minutes into the second half, and then we kind of cruised from there. But UCLA was giving it to us in the first half for a while.
They were, man. They were, and we started to pull away towards the end of the first half. The defense was really good in the first half, I thought. They had that big dude. I don't know what that dude's name is. That center, though, he was humongous, dude. Oh, my God, that guy was so big. And I was worried because Okpara has struggled against big men. He's not the biggest five in the world, and he's really struggled against really good big men this year. So I was pretty concerned about that. But luckily, this is the only dude that's as tall as Zach Edey who's less skilled than Zach Edey. That dude was awful, man. That guy had no footwork. No disrespect, but that guy could not play. The only reason he is there is because he's over 7 feet tall. So we were able to hold him in check for most of the game. But, again, Chaz Lanier provided the spark, man. I thought Gainey also provided a spark as well. He made a couple key shots in the game, but Chaz Lanier was really the difference, dude. He made a couple just kind of back-breaking threes in moments where UCLA might have started creeping back in, but then Chaz just hit another three and kept the lead just too big to overcome for UCLA.
Yeah, it was an awesome performance, and I'm really glad you brought up that about Chaz in terms of his game, and I really started to notice that towards the end of the season, kind of in the SEC tournament, and now we're seeing it in the NCAA tournament, where he is kind of creating different shots. He's doing some mid-range jumpers. He's driving to the bucket, here and there. But it's nice to see him opening up his game because we talked about that. We talked about that on this podcast at several points earlier on in the season where we were talking about, hey, man, he's got to be able to create some different shots, create some plays for himself. And so he's starting to do that. So if he can continue that kind of play, and of course Zakai is playing lights out as usual. Zakai had a couple threes against UCLA that were just – I love him, dude. He's such a good player. He plays with such heart, and dude, he's just a fun player to watch. And so we know Zakai is going to be giving his all. But if Chaz can keep putting it together like this, and like you said, Gainey had some great moments off the bench. Meshack is doing his thing defensively as always. Even your boy Igor Milicic, had a couple good plays, so far. So Kentucky's coming up. If we can keep playing like this, man, there's no way they beat us a third time, right?
Yeah, the biggest thing I am concerned about is the Chaz factor, dude. Chaz has shown his capabilities in this tournament. He's been one of the best. He's really been one of the stories of the tournament, and for nationally, not just Tennessee. I'm talking about nationally. He's been one of the best players in the tournament. It's concerning that his play. Now, listen, he wasn't bad all throughout SEC play, but if you look at his games against Kentucky, he scored 10 points and 15 points. So that's pretty concerning, man. And the SEC is just more physical. And I don't think Kentucky. Not I didn't really think that was a very physical matchup. I actually thought in that game and in that series this year. What did I say back then? I thought we were relying on the 3-point shot too much in those games. I thought we weren't reading the game flow well in those games. I thought there was a portion, I believe it was either first or second Kentucky game, I can't remember which, but there was a portion in the second half where Kentucky went on a huge scoring drought, and we had an opportunity to come back in that game, but we kept forcing the three ball, and we're only down by like 5 points. It's like, dude, we just need to find a way to score. This is not like a 30-point deficit we have to overcome right now. It's a 5-point deficit. Get to the bucket. Draw a foul, find a way back in this game. So I thought those games probably weren't the best coach games this year. Obviously, I'm not going to give coaching advice to Rick Barnes. I think he's got that. But I just thought the game flow, we didn't read the game flow well, and we didn't adjust to the game flow. So we'll see. I mean, it felt like the reason, and you alluded to my prediction earlier. Before the tournament, I predicted that we would lose to Kentucky in the Sweet 16. And my hope was that Illinois would bounce Kentucky or Troy would bounce Kentucky. Neither one of those things happened, so we are playing Kentucky. So, unfortunately, that prediction is still on the table. And the reason I predicted it, man, it's just like one of those things. I said my analysis before the tournament was sometimes matchups make fights, right? I'm a big UFC, MMA fan and boxing fan, and sometimes matchups make fights, and I think that can be applied to other sports. I think sometimes matchups are what make the difference in basketball, and it feels like a bad matchup with Kentucky. It's felt like that this year, just the way we played them this year. So I am very concerned. I'm extremely concerned, but hopefully. It's also really tough to beat a same team 3 times, and hopefully that applies to this matchup, and we can adjust and make those adjustments. But I don't feel good about it, man. I would have felt much better if we drew Illinois this round or Troy or somebody like that. But unfortunately, we have to beat our foes, Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worrying, and honestly, I blame you. As soon as I've been dreading it ever since you made that prediction, because you're absolutely right that unfortunately this matchup, for whatever reason, is just not doing it for us this year. I do have a lot of trust in Coach Barnes. I think they have plenty of time now to scheme for Kentucky. What is it, Friday that we're going to be playing Kentucky, and so that's about 5 days now, 5 or 6 days to prepare and scheme for Kentucky and figure it out. And I think, again, if Chaz can keep playing like he's been playing on this hot streak, and the team can continue playing like they've been playing, then I think we've got a shot. But it's unfortunate that, of course, hey, we got the favorable Houston draw, but of course we had to, get Kentucky in our bracket. And honestly, Kentucky handled business pretty well against Illinois. They beat them 84-75. The funny thing is if Illinois had won, that would have been a rematch for us as well, and Illinois could have been looking for revenge, and it was a close game that we had against Illinois.
It was.
So interesting, draw for us regardless. But yeah, we'll see. My thing is going to come down to if the players can continue playing like they have been so far in these first 2 games, especially against UCLA, who again had a hard-fought game, played really well, good team. I think it's going to come down to, can Coach Barnes figure it out? Can we figure out what it is that we just couldn't get over that Kentucky hump this year, and then figure it out and get over the hump? If we do, then we're likely headed for a matchup against number 1 Houston.
Or Purdue, who we lost to in the Elite 8 last year.
That's true. Again, it keeps coming down to these rematches type deals. But yes, that Houston will be playing Purdue. Obviously, we anticipate Houston to win that game. So, frankly, I think, honestly, for whatever reason, I think Kentucky is our toughest game, our toughest obstacle between now and the Final Four, in my opinion.
Very well could be. I think it probably will be. If you just look how we played out of conference this year, we're still undefeated out of conference. Going back to the beginning of the season, we still have yet to lose a game out of conference. I think it's very possible that that would be our biggest hump, right? It's kind of reminiscent of the playoff bracket in football this year. We said, hey, if we can get past Ohio State, then we believe that the matchups get easier and easier. Well, we end up being right about that because Ohio State ended up running through the rest of the matchups, but we didn't get to Ohio State, so that's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I do agree. Also, I try to bring like most of the time reasonable analysis. I don't usually like to buy into wonky things like this, but somebody posted a picture on Twitter of Chaz after the Florida game at some point, and dude, he had a mean mug on his face. It was after, I don't know if it was during the game and it was like after we definitely were about to lose, or if it was after the game, but dude, he just looked locked in. Like he was ready to prove people wrong in the NCAA tournament, and he's played like that so far. Now he has yet another opportunity to prove people wrong, right? I mean, Kentucky's one of our biggest rivals in basketball. That's the only sport, of course, because we dominate them in everything else. But so I mean, dude, you lost to them twice this year. We hate losing. I mean, it's also a lot like the Ohio State game, dude, because I said that Ohio State game, I was like, dude, I hate Ohio State. It's not just that I want to advance in the playoffs. I can't stand Ohio State. That's very reminiscent of this matchup. It's not just we want to advance to the Elite Eight and potentially the Final Four. It's, dude, we're playing Kentucky. It's all chips in, brother. This is one of our biggest rivals and one of the biggest moments, right? We have an opportunity to get Rick Barnes and Tennessee to the Final Four for the first time, and you have to get through one of your biggest rivals, dude, who you've lost to twice this year. I mean, it is literally all chips in. Everything's on the table. Winner goes home, or loser goes home. And dude, it's like it doesn't sit well with me, man, because you lose, you're not just out, but you also have to listen to the other fan base rub it in your face, because nobody rubs it in Tennessee fans' face more that we haven't made a Final Four than Kentucky fans. So.
Well, because that's all they have, right? And so I understand, I get it. When that's the only thing you have to cling to, then, you got to make something of it, right? So I feel for Kentucky fans, right? It's a fairly impoverished program, athletics program through and through, but they've got a few wins in basketball, right? So they got to cling to that. I get it. Here's the deal. I think you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head with Chaz being locked in, and you love to see that, man, because that's what we talked about during football season, right? Who's that player that is going to step up and say, I'm gonna put this team on my back, right? I'm gonna lead this team to victory. And if Chaz can remain locked in, then he'll become a Tennessee legend, right? If he can continue to carry this team through this tournament, it would be huge. And so we're gonna absolutely need him against Kentucky, because Kentucky is still one of the highest scoring offenses in the country, and so and our defense hasn't been able to figure it out the past two games we've had against them that we've lost, and so we're going to need some scoring from Chaz, but we'll see, man. I'm hopeful. Just listen, man, you've been a Nostradamus so far on this podcast. It's very annoying because a lot of your predictions are unfortunately pessimistic. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they tend to come true. And so I'm hoping that this is one that you do not get right.
Oh, I mean, I totally agree. Every time I predict us to lose, I hope I get it wrong, to be clear. But it's interesting what you said about Chaz, that he has an opportunity to be a Tennessee legend. That's so true. I mean, obviously, everyone on the team has something to play for, right? You have an opportunity to do something that's never been done at Tennessee and make a Final Four and a potential national championship in basketball. I think Zakai and Meshack are so interesting, because Meshack had a clip earlier that I saw saying how he just wants to do it for Rick Barnes, man. And that's just says so much about Meshack. But I think Zakai and Meshack in particular want to do it for Rick Barnes, which is awesome. But from Chaz Lanier's perspective, he has so much to play for, right? You're right. He has an opportunity to be a Tennessee legend, but he also has an opportunity to raise his draft stock and help himself individually. Because one of the reasons Dalton Connect, I mean, Dalton Connect had a phenomenal year all around, but it definitely didn't hurt his draft stock in the tournament, right? He had awesome tournament performances, even against Purdue, where he almost single handedly kind of brought us to victory in that game. So Chaz has a great opportunity to rise his stock individually, but also become that Tennessee legend, that guy. Because if we go to a Final Four, it's we're gonna need everyone, right? Zakai especially. Zakai's the leader. He's the floor general. He's playing great defense. But if we get there, it's gonna be on the back of Chaz Lanier's offensive production. It's kind of been the story of the season. When we do a season review for basketball, no matter wherever we end up, whether we lose this game or we end up winning the national championship, the analysis is really going to be, okay, we got this far because Chaz was elite offensively. And we're going to need that in this Kentucky game, man. So, yeah, I hope more than anyone that I'm wrong about the prediction. I think it came down to the matchups make fights thing for me, and we've lost to them twice already, and it's just been an odd matchup. But, hey, it's a neutral floor. It's in the NCAA tournament. We've been extremely hot, dude. We have looked fantastic through 2 games, and it is hard to beat the same team 3 times. It's very hard to do that. So hopefully all those things are in our favor, and hopefully we get the job done. Because if we do, I think we will make a Final Four. I'll add that. I'll add a little hedge if I'm wrong about the Sweet 16 prediction, which again I hope I am. I believe if we win this game, we'll go on to at least make our first Final Four in Tennessee history. So,
and that'll be incredible. We definitely hope to see that. And yeah, it's big time matchup. So we're going to be keeping an eye on the Kentucky game coming up on Friday for sure. Yeah, it's if we can do it for Rick Barnes, there's rumors about him retiring. That would be huge, and we just got to beat Kentucky, man. We hate Kentucky in basketball, so
one last basketball stat we have coming out of this game: first time in Tennessee history that we've went to 3 straight Sweet 16s. First time in Tennessee history. It's incredible. I mean, listen, whether we get to the Final Four or not, what Rick Barnes has done here is amazing. I mean, what he's done for the basketball program is incredible. So whether this is his last game or if he coaches 5 more years, 3 Sweet 16s appearances in a row is still incredibly impressive, whether we get to the Final Four or not.
Yeah, he's obviously done an incredible job at Tennessee and put Tennessee basketball on the map. Bruce Pearl kind of started to put us on the map, right? But now Rick Barnes has kind of solidified us on the map, and so that's absolutely huge. With the Kentucky game, my final thing is, man, I just hope they get that mental monkey off their back. I hope that they don't have, kind of that in the back of their head, that there's some sort of mental block. That's my hope. I hope we can down them, and that is the second prediction you made there is one that I can get on board with, that if we can get past Kentucky, then we will make our first Final Four. That would be absolutely huge. So, any other thoughts, Austin, on the basketball Vols?
No, man. Just beat Kentucky. I think they're going to be highly motivated. Like I said, it's all chips in. You're playing your rival, and you have an opportunity to help your coach, your legendary coach, kind of solidify his legacy. And finally get that monkey off. Tennessee basketball's back, right? That Final Four monkey. We're reminded every day on Twitter how we haven't made a Final Four in basketball. And trust me, once we do, people will just start talking about how we only have one. So, Vols fans, just prepare yourself for that. They'll just bring up, oh, well, Kentucky has like how many ever more. So don't think it's going to be over once we make our first Final Four. That's just how social media is. But, yeah, man, they're motivated. The Tennessee fan base wants it more than anything right now. Even though we've been asking for a lot recently, we've been getting a lot recently too. So let's appreciate what we got. But yeah, man, beat Kentucky,
making us a little greedy for sure. But speaking of being greedy, before we hop over to the baseball for the Tennessee baseball review of those games, a quick update on the Lady Vols. I'm watching the points just go up. They've scored like 5 points since I brought up the score. Okay. We are up against the Ohio State Buckeyes 48-37 now in the third quarter with 8 minutes left in the third quarter.
I mean,
So
I gotta show the Lady
could be a
Vols some love, man.
could be a Sweet 16 for Kim Caldwell too.
And we might know at the end of this episode, so maybe we'll get a little bit of a reaction. Who knows? I'm not promising that, people. We've gone down that road before, but man, they cooked against South Florida. They're cooking right now against Ohio State, and that Ohio State spread was thin, dude. That was a thin spread. We were only a 2.5 point favorite leading into that game. So if she can get the job done there, who knows what the ceiling is? Because remember, midway through the season, the analysis on the Lady Vols were we were playing all these really tough opponents and losing by just a couple of points, or sometimes beating them. We've already beat UConn this year, and so I mean this team can be dangerous, and we'll see if she can get to the Sweet 16, man, in her first year. That's incredible.
If the Lady Vols can get back to where they belong in that storied program, man, this Danny White might be cooking up the best athletics program that college sports has ever seen, potentially.
And I'm sure you already know this, Blake, but the Lady Vols are the only women's basketball program to make every single NCAA tournament. Incredible, man. We're 100% the best women's basketball program on the planet, above UConn. I don't want to hear it. So, yeah, no question about it.
Not a question at all. We will keep you all updated. Well, I'm acting like we're live.
Yeah, we're not.
Y'all are already going to know the results.
Yeah, keep us updated. Comment on the video and let us know.
Yeah, let us know. If we're excited for nothing. But honestly, we're up by 11 right now with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. So that's a good position to be. We are the 5 seed. Ohio State's the 4 seed. So that would be great if we can upset the 4 seed and head into the Sweet 16 for the Lady Vols. Would cap off an incredible weekend for the Tennessee Vols. But Austin, speaking of being greedy as a fan base, speaking of your terrible predictions, and speaking of beating hated rivals, we're going to be covering all of that in this next section on the baseball Vols, the baseballs as they are known. So we've got a lot to cover here. Unfortunately, you jinxed us with ETSU.
Before you drag me about ETSU, okay? Before you drag me, I gotta call you and my buddy Matthew out, who doesn't listen to the pod. He needs to start listening to the pod. I believe he is a subscriber because I made him subscribe. But y'all both texted me after we lost to ETSU and Alabama back to back, both panicking. And Matthew texted me and asked me, "Are the Tennessee baseball Vols going to fall off a cliff? Is it going to be a complete meltdown?" And you thought we had trouble on Rocky Top and Tony Vitello was going down in the dumps, okay? And I told both y'all. I told both
that's
y'all.
Slander. I didn't say Tony V was going in the dumps.
No,
you did.
Panicking. You did. He was panicking. Exactly. You were panicking. And I told both y'all, dude, this is just baseball. We lost 2 games in a row by 1 run each. It's fine. And going back to my bad prediction, which, listen, I did say this, that we're liable to lose a rough midweek game to a team like ETSU. I did say that. But that's just baseball, man. You're not pitching your best guys in the midweek. And we lost to a tough team in Game 1. It wasn't that big a deal. And I'll get into that. I have some analysis of the Game 1. But, yeah, dude. I mean, 2 games in a row by 1 run each. It's all good. We're going to be fine. We end up winning the series. Very, very nice series win. So, yeah, man. I knew it was going to be fine. Tony V's got us humming.
It's just frustrating, okay? And we won't spend too much time on ETSU. They played like it was their World Series game.
Oh, dude,
right?
they did, man. That celebration afterwards, dude, that was...
Which, listen, you're playing the number 1 team in the country, and it's down I-81. It's right down the road, 2 hours away against Big Brother UT. I get it, right? And let me tell you, they were literally laying it all out on the field, dude. They were diving all over the place to make defensive plays. They were playing lights out.
So they gave their all, brother. They wanted everything to ETSU.
Bad.
They did.
Which, listen, congrats. And we were playing some a couple more freshmen than we normally do. It's just frustrating. I was just frustrated because, like, damn, Austin, really? You got to do that to us?
I know. I know, but it
But
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We'll
it's
be fine.
like you said, that's baseball. It happens with those midweek games. What I'm more interested in is the fact, and listen, cue up the Alabama hate portion of the podcast. Okay, we are transition as Austin has said in the past. Listen, if you like the Tennessee Volunteers,
Uh,
this is the podcast for you. But if you hate Alabama, this next few minutes is especially going to be for you. Okay, so cue up the Alabama hate because we own the Alabama Crimson Tide. Period. We own them. That is what I'm more interested in. We did drop that first game. It was a little worrying, but then we came back. We won that second game, and then we won the rubber match, and we won them handily. Both those games handed. I believe the rubber match was what 9-2, and so came back and won the series. And now this year, this sports cycle, we have beat them in football, we have beat them in basketball, and we now have beat them in baseball.
men's and
I don't
women's basketball.
men's and women's basketball. I don't remember the last time we've lost to the Alabama Crimson Tide. I don't know what's happening in Tuscaloosa. I feel bad for him. I guess Nick Saban just kind of, when he left, there was just some sort of spirit that was sucked out of Tuscaloosa. They are in shambles, and good for them. They should be. That's where they should always be. And the fact of the matter is Tennessee is Alabama's daddy. I mean, we're at this point. I'm wearing the Natty Daddy hat. We're Bama's daddy. That's the bottom line.
I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, listen, I'm smiling over here because as a kid, dude, when we played Alabama in football, it was always just waiting for a beating. It was always waiting for a beating every year. We could just chalk it up to, okay, we're about to get boat raced by Bama. Things have changed, man. Things have changed, and I don't see it changing in football. You know how I feel about that situation. It damn sure ain't changing in baseball, man. This team is still the best team in the country despite losing 2 games in a row. And basketball, I mean, it's not like Bama's a slouch in basketball, man. We beat one of the best teams in the country this year in basketball off that Meshack miracle shot, dude. Incredible shot. What a legend. But yeah, dude. I mean, we own the state of Alabama right now. It's fantastic. Seeing the completely entitled, the most entitled fan base in the world. I mean, it is the absolute most entitled fan base in the world. I saw the most idiotic tweet. I hate tweeting. I really do. But I almost tweeted this guy, man, because I mean, it was just the most idiotic thing in the world. He complained about the umps in the 9-2 rubber match, dude. Alabama gave up 15 hits, man. Just accept it, dog. Just accept it, man.
That's ain't pathetic. No amount of calls that's going to change that outcome.
No question. No, there was no amount of calls in the rubber match that was going to change the outcome. The funny thing is too, and I want to get into each individual game analysis, but just kind of jumping ahead here to the call they were specifically upset about. Dude, that call was obviously the umps obviously got the call right. It was essentially the catcher for Alabama thought that he caught a foul ball that one of our hitters hit in his mitt, but it hit the dirt first. It clearly went off the ground. The announcer said it. One of the announcers, who was an Alabama alum, by the way, said it. If you didn't see the play, and then the coach got all pissed off about this. He was also pissed off. I think the coach was also specifically pissed off about one of our hitters taking more time to get into the box than usual. Either way, dude, you gave up 15 hits, dog. It was a very clear outcome in the rubber match. So yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly surprised by that either because I thought our lineup was gonna kind of dominate their bullpen, which we did. But yeah, dude, it's very reminiscent of growing up and being a Tennessee fan and just finding some way to cling on to a moral victory, right? You're finding something like, oh man, if we didn't just get screwed over by this or we didn't get screwed over by that, then we would. Now, dude, the shoe's on the other foot, and let me tell you, I like this side more. I'm going to stay on this side of it because, trust me, dude, y'all look pathetic, dude. Just accept it, dog. Just accept it. Things have changed. Saban's not coming back, brother. Things have changed.
Nicky Saban's gone. He ain't coming out of retirement. He sure as heck can't coach your basketball team. He can't coach your baseball team. It's time to accept it, brother. Tuscaloosa is in shambles, and they are going to remain in shambles because we are going to remain dominant over them. That's the bottom line, and
I
you love
agree.
to see it.
I
You
agree,
love to see
man.
it.
Now starting in game one, because man, Bama fans were chirping after game one.
Oh yeah, I'm
Dude,
sure.
I felt completely fine. I felt completely fine. I've been worried about our pitching depth. First of all, our pitching depth is looking better and better. I believe we might have found our Sunday starter, but I'll get into that later. Dude, game one, Liam Doyle throws 5 innings and only gives up a run, but the second inning he just melted down, and we committed several errors in that inning. He also walked several guys in that inning, and we gave up 5 runs in 1 inning. Let me just tell you, that's called a fluke. That's a fluke
Right.
outcome. When you have 5 innings in the same game where a guy gives up 1 run, and there's 1 inning where he gives up 5, and it's the second inning too. So he pitches the second inning, right? Gives up 5 runs. We have all those errors. Bama gets off to this big lead, and then he pitches 4 more innings and gives up a single run. So it's not like his arm's getting tired and he's just like, Tony V is taking too long to pull him. First of all, that was also a great coaching decision. They could have easily said, "Oh man, let's hit the panic button. Let's get Doyle out of there." At the end of the day, Doyle innings 3 through 6 kept us in it. He kept us in the game, and he was still a weapon in the game. He had one single bad inning where his fielders didn't help him, and they were committing errors, and that's called a fluke, Alabama fans. And that's exactly why the rest of the series it was very clear who the better team is. At the end of the day, Blake, they didn't win a game. They won a single inning. They won a single inning
right.
out of 18 innings. That's what you
Exactly.
won at the end of the day. And I said 18 innings, I meant 27 innings. Okay? I can't math right now when I'm getting so ticked off about idiot Alabama fans. But dude, that's really what it came down to. So I really wasn't that concerned coming out of game 1. And
Real quick, I just want to say you don't have to worry because the Alabama fans didn't know what that math was anyway.
True.
So
That's right.
You don't have to worry.
But 27 innings, you really just won a single inning, dude. And honestly, I think a lot of good came out of game 1. Now, I think we also could have won that game, like despite Doyle's mess up in the second inning. I think we left a little bit on the table as far as offensively is concerned. But dude, Dylan Loy really impressed me in that game. He came in Doyle's relief after the 6th inning, and he kept us in it, dude. He absolutely kept us in it through 2 scoreless innings in that game, and he's becoming a nice pitcher, dude. Like, really nice. His last couple of outings have been really impressive. So Dylan, he's also from right here in Tennessee, in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, I believe, or Pigeon Forge. It's either Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, which for the Tennesseans out there, that's the same place to me. When someone says I'm going to Gatlinburg, I just assume you're also going to Pigeon Forge. I don't know the difference, okay? So don't explain the difference to me because I don't accept it. It's the same place to me. But yeah, so Dylan Loy, really impressive in that game, so I'm really happy about him going forward, what he projects going forward. And at the end of the game, we had an opportunity in the ninth. I think Jay Abernathy. I don't know if he was told to steal in the ninth inning, but he made a misread and he stole a base that I think if he doesn't steal that base, I think we could go on to win that game. But that was the final out, unfortunately, that the end of the game. But yeah, man, game 1, I felt fine because it really came down to a single inning, dude. That's what it came down to.
Yeah, definitely. It was a fluke, and I was just concerned that we had just dropped that game to ETSU, and then that we dropped the game to Alabama, and I was like, man, are we hitting a slump or something? But at the end of the day, the stats speak for themselves, and you just laid it out perfectly that in reality, Alabama won 1 inning, and so we're still, to me, still the undisputed best team in the country. Obviously, we've got some big series coming up, including against LSU, to really kind of determine who the top team in the country might be. But yeah, it was we got through game 1, but then we headed into game 2 and game 3 and made it right. So let's talk about game 2 and 3.
So Yeah, I agree. I mean, I could see where you're coming from, thinking we're getting into a slump. I also think that just baseball's a little different, man. It's not like if you lose 2 games in a row in basketball, I think it could snowball, and if you lose 2 games in a row in football, your season's pretty much over. It's so it's just very different sport in that way. Also, I think you have to when we lose 2 games in a row, it is worrying because it's like it's back to back, and you just saw us go on this run. But to me, I viewed it as you have to trust what this team has put forth in the 20 other games they've played. Right? Put together 2 bad games, and really, like I said, it really came down to certain innings, specifically in the Alabama game. And you lose those games by 2 runs. I mean, we're literally like 4 runs away on the season from being undefeated still. But yeah, game 2, a huge bounce back game. Marcus Phillips put together a really solid outing in my opinion. Now, the only rough spot about that game, first of all, this is when we started really dominating Bama's bad pitchers. Like that's that's the story of the season to me. Outside of our pitching being better than we thought it was going to be, is this lineup. They're solid against good pitching, but dude, what makes the difference is if you don't have a great pitcher on the mound, you're just done for. I mean, this team absolutely rakes on bad pitchers, dude. Or even solid pitchers. I'm talking about if you don't have an elite pitching lineup and it's really deep, then you're pretty much done for because right when Bama hit the pin in the game 2, it was over. It was over, dude. I think the first inning that they went to the bullpen. I think we had 3 or 4 runs. Like that's kind of the identity of this team is, dude. Your pitching staff better be extremely deep, or you're pretty much done for because we're going to make bad pitching look even worse than it is, or we're going to make solid pitching look really really bad. So that was the story in game 2. The other rough takeaway, or the only rough takeaway really from game 2 for me was Nate Snead's performance. He was really really kind of rough in the game, and I think Tony kept him in for way too long. That was one thing because I mean you're coming off the Florida series where Snead pitches. I mean he basically pitched 3.5 innings in an outing that game. I believe it was game 1, and really solidified the win. But then in this series, or in this game 2, in this series, he had a bad game. That was really the only rough takeaway from that game because Bama really started to come back at the end. We got a pretty big lead, and then Bama kind of made it scary towards the end. But luckily, we had already done enough to kind of secure the victory. But yeah, and then that kind of led into the rubber match.
And the rubber match really sealed the deal because we really had a dominant performance in the rubber match. Before we get to that, I do want to note real quick too that something to keep in mind. You talked about our batting and the fact that we just really prey on bad pitching. The thing is, in this series too, is that we were also missing our best batter in
Correct.
Gavin Keelan.
Great point.
And he's our starting second baseman. He was out this series with a hamstring injury. I'm kind of looking at some quotes from Tony V about his status. I believe Tony V has said that it's probably about a 2-week thing or about a 10-day thing, and so he will potentially be back for the upcoming series against South Carolina. He'll probably miss this midweek game against whoever it is that we're going to slosh. Hopefully, Queens. Wow. That's right.
Maybe he thought that against
Let's not go down that road again.
Let's not.
My point is I don't know if you have the stats in front of you, Austin. I had him up earlier, but basically he's batting like over 400. He's leading the team in home runs.
10 home runs.
And he's our what looks to be our best batter right now this season, and we didn't have him, and yet we still sloshed Alabama, especially going into this rubber match where we beat them 9-2.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, dude. Great point to bring up. They actually, interestingly enough, they had Jay Abernathy hitting in his place. Man, Jay Abernathy has become a X factor on this team in the outfield. I kind of get into that a little bit in the rubber match, but yeah, he was batting in the 2-hole. Gavin Keelan was out, which was, I mean, like you said, he's leading the team in home runs. I don't know if he might be leading the team in average because Levi Clark has kind of went on a little bit of a slump. So Yeah, I mean, dude, you can't beat us with potentially our best batter, Alabama. Listen, man, it's like I mean, it's one of those things. It was very clear who the better team was. Like 27 innings, you had one good inning. Congrats, like awesome, congratulations. But every other inning, it was basically dominated by Tennessee. But yeah, the rubber match was huge, man. I was pretty anxious for this rubber match, man, because I told you and Matthew that, hey, everything's gonna be all right, and we predicted coming into the week that we'd lose the rubber match. I thought at some point we'd lose a game, and that was my prediction. Now our first game we'd lose was Alabama in Game 3. So, but dude, I mean it was really a domination. Biggest storyline coming out of the game to me was Tegan Kuhns, man. Tegan Kuhns is looking like he's going to become the Sunday starter. He ended up pitching 4 innings. Absolutely phenomenal outing from him. So, I mean, yeah, if we get a solid Sunday starter, this team is pretty much going to be unbeatable in weekend series, dude. Like, it's pretty much going to be unbeatable. And you can mark that down because we lost one SEC series last year. I could easily see that being the case this year, where we only drop one series or maybe no series, because if we have 3 solid starters, well, not even solid, Liam Doyle is elite, Marcus Phillips is great, and then we get Tegan Kuhns, man, Tennessee is going to be a very hard team to beat. One of the most interesting things coming out of that game, but I kind of alluded to it earlier, was their coach flipping out and getting ejected in the game. That was a hilarious sequence, dude. So basically what happened is Andrew Fisher hits an absolute missile, okay? He hits an absolute missile. This bat, I might add this into the podcast so people can see it for any that's watching this deep into the podcast. First of all, we thank you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button,
please.
All that. But
give us something if you're this far into the episode. Give us something.
Please. But Andrew Fisher, dude, he hit this ball so hard. His metal bat sounded like a wooden bat, dude. That's how hard he hit this ball. He hit it, dude. I immediately knew that thing was gone. This happens. He hits, I mean, one of the hardest hit balls of the year, easily. And Andrew Fisher, just to give quick analysis on him, that's his thing, dude. Every time I watch him hit a home run, I'm like, oh my lord, dude. He might not be the best batter on the team, but he easily has the most no doubt home runs this season, dude. He hits absolute missiles, man. He crushes baseballs. That's my analysis on Andrew Fisher. He does this. Dalton Bargo comes up to bat right afterwards, and this is when you have the conundrum with the coach. First of all, Bargo was fantastic in this series, dude. Absolutely fantastic. That just speaks to the depth of this lineup and how many dudes we have that are great hitters. Bargo comes to the plate. He has this thing with the catcher where the catcher's arguing, and they argue for this review. And it was a very obvious thing, right? Like the announcers were saying, hey, this is not an out. It clearly hits the third. The Bama catcher's super confident in it. And then, from there I'm not really sure. I think Bargo took a while to get in the batter's box, and that really pissed the coach off. What I think was happening is sometimes when a coach knows, because at this point it's already very obvious what's happening in this game, right? Tegan Kuhns is kind of cooking Bama, and we're cooking this Bama starting pitcher. I think the coach was trying to motivate his team, right? He's trying to fire him up. He's trying to get some juice in there, which is hilarious when you consider the first pitch back after all this happens. He gets ejected. They throw him out of the game. He's trying to fire his team up. Dalton Bargo hits a home run, dude, and absolutely pimps it, man. He throws the bat down, literally just tosses the bat. He knows immediately this thing's a home run right after their coach tried to fire him up, dude. It was absolutely hilarious, man, because it's one of those things. It's like, that could be a momentum shifter. Maybe it fires the Bama players up. Maybe it gets them going. And then Bargo's like, yeah, no, nope. That ain't happening, buddy. Sorry.
Silence. Yeah. That was awesome. And honestly, that's the identity of this team too. Just the absolute swag that they have, and the swagger that they have, and just the ability to, and it pisses teams off too, right? It pisses opposing fans off. But man, they keep winning, So it's like,
exactly.
What can you say?
What can you do? And dude, it was chippy all weekend, man. It was chippy from game one. I don't think Bama's coach and Tony V get along very well, to be honest with you. And listen, There's no bigger Tennessee fan than Tony Vitello. He knows. Listen, baseball is different than football. Rivalries mean so much more in football, I think, because A, it's just more popular of a sport, but B, you only play each other once a year. And some teams you don't even play once a year. But he knows what it means to beat Alabama, right? He knows what this means. He smoked cigars. He stormed the field. He knows what the rivalry means, even though it's not in football or it's not in basketball. So it was chippy all weekend, dude. And you're right, it does piss teams off. And dude, the funniest thing about this pitcher that threw to that pitch to Bargo that hit it out of the park, same pitcher. I believe it was the same inning. I forget who's batting. Maybe Reese Chapman. He hits like such a nice double, middle of the field. The pitcher cracked me up, dude, because he called for a fly ball. Most obvious not fly ball ever, because that's what pitchers do when they think it's a fly ball and it's a pop up. They'll point to the air, tell them they're fielders. Dude, it wasn't a pop up at all, dude. It was so funny seeing him do that, and then us getting a double out of it. So yeah, man. It's great to beat Alabama, obviously. And then all those embarrassing moments for Bama, right? Their coach gets thrown out of the game, and trying to fire the guys up, and then right afterwards, Tennessee just hits kind of a back-breaking home run, frankly. But yeah, man.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was just gonna say, I love to see that from Tony V too. The fact that, like you said, the fact that he knows what this rivalry means. That's what I want in a coach. If you can win and you can hate Alabama, then sign me up. That's all I need out of a coach in any sport, really, at Tennessee. So you love to see it, and you love to see us dominate Bama because, again, they need to get used to it. It's going to happen in every major sport from here on out. I mean, we also dominate them in hockey and in rugby and, even the non-major sports. The fact of the matter is you got nothing, Bama. Get used to it. So, yeah, huge stuff for sure.
Couple other takeaways. I was mentioning Jay Abernathy, dude. He is, like I said, he's become such a weapon in the outfield, man. He's playing same position that Tiers played last year, right field. Playing it phenomenally, dude. His speed helps him get the balls that other fielders just can't get to, man. Like, every time I think, okay, this is for sure a hit, there's no way that Abernathy's going to get there, he gets there, dude. He makes so many good plays in the field. He's also, despite the blip in Game 1 and Game 3 where he got called out for a base runner interference, he's a really good base runner, dude. Really good at steals and just an elite base runner. So, and he's a freshman, man. I mean, baseball is interesting because it's not like football where you have to play 3 years no matter what. A lot of these freshmen could be gone if they play their way into getting drafted, but the fact that he had, like, Jay Abernathy's a freshman, Stone Lawless is a freshman, Levi Clark's a freshman, Manny Marin's a freshman, Tegan Coons is a freshman. Yeah. It's just incredible, man. It's incredible how quickly they can develop these guys, how young the roster is. I mean, imagine if a lot of these dudes came back next year, how much better they would be.
I was going to say that earlier, that Tony, like that's the theme of this team so far this year, is just the fact that Tony V has been able to recruit at this level, and the transfers, but then the freshmen, man. And when you brought up Coons, that was just, it's like you really see, it's like, okay, yeah, you had Abernathy and Stone Lawless, like you said. But then all of a sudden, Coons comes out of the woodworks and is just playing lights out, and you're like, holy crap, these freshmen are just nuts. Like, he's literally recruited the best talent in the country.
Exactly. It's the best talent in the country, for sure. Also, got to give out a shout out to Tennessee legend. This is how Hunter Ensley will forever be known. The great Hunter Ensley. He's a Tennessee legend forever for what he did here, and that's not a joke. I mean, that's a fact. What he did in the College World Series will forever make him a Tennessee legend. He had a fantastic series, dude. All series long, dude. He was eating Bama for lunch at the plate. Fantastic series from Hunter Ensley. A couple key hits. And again, all throughout the weekend. So, and he's honestly hasn't had the best start to the year, but dude, if he gets going, oh man, dude. I mean, this lineup is it's unbelievable, man. What this lineup has done so far. So, overall, fantastic series win. And really, dude, it really should have been a sweep. That's how I view it. It should have been a sweep, but it doesn't matter that it's not a sweep. We still won the series. I don't know where the it's going to impact us in the rankings. The rankings is going to be very interesting. Breaking news: LSU lost their series to Texas. So all those LSU fans trolling us after Game 1 at Bama, rough look. Maybe wait until after Game 3 of your series before you say anything. That's really my big takeaway from all these fan bases. Just wait at least a day. Just wait a day. Don't start celebrating and taking victory laps after one game in the SEC series. At least wait for Tennessee to lose the series. And I mean, good Lord, wait for your team to win your series before you start celebrating another team's loss. Pretty pathetic from the LSU fan base. But so, yeah, I mean, LSU's definitely not going to be number one. They could easily put Georgia number one because Georgia's beat the brakes off Florida, dude. Their first game was a one-run victory. And that just broke Florida, man. I think they run ruled them 2 games in a row, dude. It was kind of rough.
Wow.
So Georgia's going to be up there, and then Arkansas is looking really good as well. So I don't know how far we'll drop in the rankings, but like I've said before, dude, it doesn't matter, right? Because these things will play themselves out. You said earlier in the show that we're going to be playing LSU at some point. Those things will play themselves out at the end of the day. So. And we'll figure out. I mean, what matters really getting back to Omaha, right? Get back to Omaha, and then anything can happen. So.
That is the other prediction of yours that I'm on board with, that we will make it back to Omaha, and yeah, that's all that matters at the end of the day. Yeah, I will say this about the LSU fans. I don't know if, us dominating their stadium in football and singing Rocky Top and Death Valley, I don't know if that just really broke them mentally, but they've been yapping a ton this baseball season. And it's funny, I saw a funny comment on a YouTube video a couple days ago. It was like an LSU fan was yapping as usual about baseball, and some Tennessee fan was just like, buddy, Skeens ain't coming back, just chill, just chill. But we will play LSU at some point this year, and we've got plenty of SEC play coming up, and so plenty of time for all this to shake out. But at the end of the day, we just want to make it to Omaha. That's what we care about. So speaking of upcoming games, again, we mentioned that we have Queens coming up in the midweek game. And then we'll have a series in South Carolina against South Carolina. You mentioned before we started recording that South Carolina is not that great. Hopefully that doesn't jinx us, but anything that you want to say about these upcoming games?
No, I feel good about the upcoming games. I mean, my prediction is that we sweep Carolina. No disrespect to Carolina, but they are not one of the more competitive SEC teams. And just the way we've played, man, I mean, like, I don't even... I think Liam Doyle's second inning in the game 1 meant nothing. I really think it's a fluke. I mean, we had a couple errors. He walked a couple guys, couple rough calls at the plate as well from the ump. Not going to say anything about that. We won the series. The last thing I'll say about the baseball, the Vols are 21-6 in series or against ranked SEC teams since 2021. 21-6 in series against ranked SEC teams since 2021. Unbelievable, man. I mean, that is an unbelievable record, because when it says ranked SEC teams, you have to keep in mind, most of those are like top 5, top 10 matchups, dude. I mean, the SEC is unbelievable in baseball. So it's not just like teams that are just scraping to get to the top 25. These are the best teams in the country that we're 21-6 against. Just an absolute elite record. So yeah, man, I mean, what Tony V here, can't say enough about it, and I expect it to continue this season, man. I still think we're the best team in the country.
Love to see it. You love to see the success across all sports, but Tony V's got the baseball team humming once again, so looks like we're cooking and heading towards an Omaha visit once again. But speaking of cooking, Austin, I want to give us a quick update. Again, by the time this episode drops, people are going to know the results, but I'm going to get you a quick update on the Lady Vols score. There's now 6:56 left in the game, quarter 4, and we're up by 10, 71-61. Okay. So it's looking like Kim Caldwell is going to, in her first season as Lady Vols head coach, make a Sweet 16 appearance. So you love to see that. And we're cooking across the board, man. Vol Sport, once again, Vol Sports, it's just, we can't stop winning. It's looking good. Any other final thoughts on the baseball team or the basketball team, Austin?
No final thoughts other than, like you said, I mean, if Kim Caldwell can get to the Sweet 16 in year one, that's fantastic. It's looking like she's going to. So great start for the Lady Vols. Hopefully they keep it rolling, man.
I'd love to see them make a run in Kim Caldwell's first year. It's just really awesome what she's done in her first year as the Lady Vols coach. Obviously, Tony V's got these base Vols cooking, and Rick Barnes looking to find that first Final Four appearance in Tennessee history. Rick Barnes has one Final Four appearance himself, but first Final Four in Tennessee history. So, folks, we've got the Kentucky game in the NCAA tournament for the men's basketball team coming up on Friday. We'll probably try to drop maybe a little preview, maybe a short preview episode for that. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about Tennessee baseball. We'll see. But at the end of the day, we're going to be keeping updates on all of these games for you. So whether we see you before the Kentucky game or whether we see you after, and let's pray that Austin's prediction does not come true, we'll hopefully be talking about an Elite Eight appearance. But regardless, we're going to be keeping an eye on all these games. So until then, go Vols.
GBO.